and you get more audience in Philippines. So that's amazing. But anyway, good luck with that. Where I'm coming from is, especially with you being here, Madam, from VMC, I think there's a bit of an infrastructural issue as well in terms of what Vikrant was saying. There's a lot of there is element in the society. There are people who would probably try to change things. Change doesn't come in so easily and so quickly. Without a proper infrastructure, without a proper direction, and direction, I'm not meaning behind the camera direction, I'm meaning more around what next. So if, for example, we think of a storyline, we think of engaging people from different backgrounds and everything good about it, and not have a DH kind of a director or a filmmaker like you had. And then what's next? What happens after that? And to make something good, for example, you'll see in a lot of short film areas, there's one guy who stands up and says, I want to make a short film, and he does everything by himself. And I can talk for myself as well in that. And I know that I'm not as good in camera, or as good in direction, or as good in story writing as I am probably in other sectors. But I have to, because there's no knowledge, there's no there's no database, there's nothing to go beyond. So where I'm trying to head towards here is there an effort that you think VMC can possibly make in terms of providing that infrastructure, providing that direction? Not always with fund, always sometimes with information as well. There are probably availabilities out there, not many people know about them. So if you can throw a bit of light on that down the track, maybe not here, maybe sometimes else, but that's where I think my nervousness was, that if we start something new, one is we are not getting a platform with something that we have already, and taking a newer challenge, something more challenging, something for innovative maybe, but then we don't even know what's the future waiting for us in terms of where it goes from here, from the tabletop, let's say. So, yeah.
I presume that most of us, if not each one of us, feel exploited or feel marginalized in our life, one point or the other. Now, films are known for either entertaining people or influencing people. I personally feel that the films, or Bollywood or any other film, they are exploiting these marginalized people in one form or the other to make more money at the box office. What's your opinion, gentlemen sitting on the panel, please?
I think this applies to every industry. It's not only restricted to Bollywood. Just general cinema and film industry, which is exploitation of the marginalized to actually make money at the box office.
I guess I'm kind of responding more to that first comment, but for me, that it can be about it's about the politics and the idea of the public having a voice, and not necessarily about making more money and having mobility to for those kind of things. There's two examples I wanted to give. One was from Latin American cinema from the 60s. It was a very sort of a powerful political kind of cinema, the public cinema coming out of Latin America, and the way that it was destroyed was through the government, the Argentinian government, I think was one of the Brazilian, offering to sort of fund the possibility of funding two films, and all of a sudden that community that arose and talking about that politics sort of destroyed itself because it started to kind of fight each other in competition to get that money. So for me, it's not about that kind of industrial thing, it's about building up a public. There's a Keith Windhausen, who's an American, Latin American academic, sort of talked about the changes that have happened in kind of the cinema in Latin America under a series of films called, a series of programs called El Pueblo. And he also talked about how, in a sense, because this is kind of maybe a statement about this lack of hope. I mean, I think, perhaps we aren't entering a time when the marginalised sort of arise out of it. So his point was that, in the 60s, people could talk in overarching political kind of terms about what the political situation was, but the situation is now is all those things are fragmented, and And often to tell those stories, you have to find a very small kind of little group somewhere, or one little story that sort of embraces a whole lot of global kind of issues. And the most powerful stories about those fragmented hit kind of gems that can communicate that. I hope I haven't taken things too far off the question. Thank you.
No, I thought that was a very interesting point about you have to build a public. So you're talking about the infrastructure that you need to build and the kind of threat that might exist if that is not in place to build a sustainable public and a sustainable community that doesn't get eaten by money in that case, or other kind of forces of power or class, or other kind of institutional or ideological structures that just continue to perpetuate marginalisation. That's obviously a really important thing. So people coming out and showing up and supporting their community obviously seems to be a really important thing. And then at the other end, I keep on thinking about Wonder Woman and Black Panther. And the movement at the high end of what we would consider most traditional levels of Hollywood cinema, with the Marvel studios starting to explore representations. We've had this genre fatigue, which I suppose exists in modern cinema as well, where people get sick of the same stuff, and now they start to try and innovate within genre, and they start to experiment with new heroes. We have Black Panther, we have black people as heroes on screen, we have Wonder Woman, we have
crazy retreats.
and it kind of seems to start to open things up. So, it's not just, I suppose, it can be many different things. It can be grassroots, it can be, marginal communities coming together, but there can also be change within, the dominant paradigm as well. I think there's many forms.
You literally stole the words out of my mouth with that Black Panther.
Yeah, and there is a parallel of Black Panther just recently released in India, of course, not a CGI one, but a real Indian superstar who can beat any CGI. That's Rajnikant's Kala, and that film is all about Kala. Kala translates into black. So in India also, there is a bit discrimination about black and white. So everyone wants a white bride or fair bride, and dark-skinned are always looked down upon. So Kala represented that downtrodden working class man who fights against the system. So it was after a long time that hero came back, and then this superstar of India, and he's as big in Japan as probably in India as well. So when he does that, and the film is a big super hit, so he somewhere, and of course the director Ranjit, who comes from that particular marginalized community, who made sure that his narrative had that kind of hero from the downtrodden community, and it has really done well. So it has paved way for those kind of stories much more.
Any final questions from the audience?
Hi, I met all of you outside, and it was very privileged. I'm very privileged to talk to you, and I never knew that you're the panel members. So I've discussed a lot with you guys. I want to be humble and honest now. So I'm just a film toddler. I've just started my steps since 6 years in the film industry. So I had a question which always keeps in my mind. Do we need cinemas? There are many other art forms that creates a lot of impact on society, and it addresses everything. Then why do we need cinemas? This is the question which I always have in my mind. I still couldn't get the answer. I hope I find it today.